Who are you? And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to Jiggers' Place. Don't know what happened to the introduction, but anyway, here we are on, let's see, what is today? Today is December 18th, 2025. And, I forgot to turn the lights on again. Excuse me 1 second. There we go. It's almost winter here in California, and it's almost dark outside, and I forget that I have to put on the additional lights. So thank you for joining me here at Jiggers' Place for a cocktail and a schmooze, as I say. And this afternoon, evening, I'm going to be talking about Poor Richard's Almanack. And if you know anything about Poor Richard, you know that that is actually, in actuality, Benjamin Franklin, one of the great founding fathers of the United States of America. So I'm going to talk a little bit about him as well. And in honor of Benjamin Franklin and his work, Poor Richard's Almanack, I'm going to make something that I call humor and wisdom. And that pretty much sums up Benjamin Franklin. So this is a bourbon-based cocktail, and I'm going to be using as the bourbon Hotel Tango Reserve Bourbon. This has a little bit of a story behind it. So in 2019, in December of 2019, so almost exactly 6 years ago, or it could have been exactly 6 years ago now that I think about it, I was taking a trip through the last 3 states that I had never visited. So I flew into Iowa and spent about a day and a half there. And then from there, I drove to Chicago, which is a fantastic city. I spent Friday and Saturday. I got in on a Friday. I spent Friday and Saturday in Chicago. Saturday night, I saw a great music group called Shaken Not Stirred. I think that's the name of it. They were a men's a cappella singing group that had met at I believe it was the University of Indiana. They were superb. And after that, I went to a piano bar in Chicago called the Redhead Piano Bar. It was jam-packed, and there was a fellow playing the piano, and everybody was singing along to the songs he was playing. Great time. So from there, I went to Indianapolis, Indiana, which was the second to last state I had to visit. And throughout the trip, I looked for craft distillers that I could visit. And lo and behold, in Indianapolis, Indiana, in addition to the Indianapolis Raceway, there was Hotel Tango. And they made a number of spirits, including this bourbon. Hotel Tango was started by a Marine Corps veteran and his wife, and Hotel Tango is actually, that's the military alphabet, HT, and I believe the wife's name was Holly or something like that. I don't remember the husband's name, but his name starts with a T, hence where they got Hotel Tango. And I decided to walk to the distillery. There was a distillery, but there was also a bar and restaurant there. So I decided to walk there. And I'd gotten about, 100 yards or so from my hotel, and it started to snow. Fortunately, I met someone along the way who knew where Hotel Tango was, and we walked together, and he pointed me across the street, and I walked in, and it was almost deserted because it was snowing. People just weren't going out. Which was lucky for me because I sat at the bar for the next, I think it was 3 hours, and the bartender just let me taste various things, and a few people wandered in here and there, and we talked and whatever. It was a lovely, lovely evening, one of the most enjoyable ones of my life. And so in honor of the 6-year anniversary of that trip, I decided to pull out the Hotel Tango bourbon. You can see that it's over halfway gone. I try and, husband my various spirits, but this one's not going to last too much longer, I fear. So in addition to that, I'm going to use maple syrup. This is Adirondack, 100% pure maple syrup. The Adirondack has been bottling maple syrup since 1940. Can you imagine? And then let's see, what else is there? Some lemon juice. I forgot to get a fresh lemon, so I'm going to be using my my little lemon juice in a bottle here. And some ginger liqueur. This is Barrow's Intense Ginger Liqueur. So it's quite lovely. And then some aromatic bitters. I'm going to use Angostura. And then I'm going to top it off with a little bit of smoked sea salt. I just coincidentally happened to see this in a store that I was in last week, and I grabbed it here. And here I designed a cocktail earlier this week, and it was there. This is Malden's, established in 1882. If you watch this at all, you know I love stuff that's made a long time ago. And then with a little orange twist. So we're going to start out with 2 ounces of bourbon. Okay. And now we struggle. There, oh, see, I found it first time. There you go. That must be a good omen, right? We'll get 2 ounces of bourbon. And we'll put it in the mixing glass. And then from there, we've got a ½ ounce of maple syrup. You might notice, maple is such a great flavor. My favorite donut is maple ice donut. More. I love chocolate, but there's just something about maple. Maple and chocolate really are, that's a great combination. Okay, and then ½ ounce of lemon juice. Oops, where's the opener on this? There we go. Okay. That in there. And then 1/4 ounce of the ginger liqueur. So there we go. Just a little bit more than a scooch, as they say. Okay. And I think it's 2 dashes of the aromatic bitters. 1, 2. Okay. Now we're gonna got the bar spoon. We're gonna mix this. I don't know what happened to my ice. I didn't want to cube up, but it got all bunched up. So that's how it goes sometimes, So we're gonna ice this down. We're gonna let the flavors mix together. We're gonna let some of the ice melt. The water opens up the flavors. If you can see on the outside of the mixing glass, you can see that it's getting nice and frosty. This time of year might remind you of Frosty the Snowman, right? I always watched that when I was a kid growing up. Okay, I think we got that. There we go. And we're going to strain this into a highball, I think. Yeah, rocks glass, otherwise known as a highball. It's got a nice consistency because of the maple syrup. It's a little more viscous than it might be than it would be if it didn't have that in it. Okay, we're gonna top it off with a pinch of this smoked sea salt. I was always one not to use too much salt, but the fact of the matter is salt, I think, stimulates our taste buds And so whatever we're tasting, it tastes better with a little bit of salt in it because the salt, like I said, awakens our taste buds. Okay, and then just going to kind of express some of the oils from the orange peel. Drop that on top, and let's give this a try. Wow. Very tasty. Great for the holiday time of year. Okay, I'll see you over on the sofa. So here we are. I have my sphere. So on each one of my couches, I have one of these spherical pillows. There's something very comforting about them. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know. But anyway, so this is the last Jiggers' Place for 2025. And so it's good to be together. I want to start by thanking you for joining me on these little journeys. If you've seen any of my other shows, you know that they're all business and finance oriented. They're, I hope not, serious in the sense of, that kind of serious, but they're dealing with, I don't want to say more important topics because I don't think that's true. I think relationships and values and understanding ourselves are all critical. But, because we have to make a living, finances and business take up a lot of our time. And so it's nice to be able to spend this time with you and relax and not feel the pressure of, kind of the workaday world and such. So on to Poor Richard's Almanack. So I don't recall exactly when I got this. I'm sure it was in some gift shop. This is supposedly like a recreation of Poor Richard's Almanack. I don't think it's particularly accurate in that it doesn't have any of the things. It doesn't have all the things that Poor Richard's Almanack had. So if you've ever seen an almanac, it has things like weather and other kinds of information in it. This is really just a book of Benjamin Franklin's aphorisms, but it's kind of fun, and it's nicer, I think, to read Benjamin Franklin's wit and wisdom. That's what I should have called the cocktail, shouldn't I? Wit and wisdom, not humor and wisdom. Oh well. Anyway, but it's nicer to have it in book form. I think than to have to go online or whatever. So I want to tell you a little bit about Benjamin Franklin. Pardon me. So good. Okay, so got my notes here. So Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston, Massachusetts on January 17th, 1706. So he was native born to what was the colonies at the time. He was the 15th of 17 children. Oh boy, his mother, right? Poor woman. He received only 2 years of formal schooling, and yet he was an incredibly intelligent and educated man, and that's because
he did a tremendous amount of reading. Like so many, especially men of his day, although there were self-educated women as well, he read pretty much anything he could get his hands on. And it's an interesting change in how society accords someone the identification of self-educated these days versus even 100 years ago. So well-educated 100 or more years ago didn't necessarily mean that someone had graduated from college or had a lot of formal education. It meant that they had learned a lot from books and lectures and that sort of thing. And maybe it's time to think about that again, and think about how we educate ourselves and our children in a different way. Franklin apprenticed as a printer under his brother James. At age 17, he left Boston for Philadelphia, seeking independence and opportunity. So it is interesting to note that by birth, Benjamin Franklin was a New Englander because Boston, Massachusetts is part of New England. But then he moved to what were at the time called the Middle Colonies, Pennsylvania, and trying to think of the colony just south of Pennsylvania. Maryland, thank you. There you go. And he became a successful printer in Philadelphia and publisher. And he eventually owned one of the most profitable printing businesses in the colonies. In 1932, okay, so he would have been 26 years old at the time, he began publishing Poor Richard's Almanack under the pseudonym Richard Saunders. So why he didn't put his own name on it, I wasn't able to find that out. It could be because he was relatively young, although 26 in the 18th century was probably considered older and more mature than 26 would be today. The Almanack made him famous for his aphorisms, his sayings about thrift and industry and practical wisdom. And this was not, of course, the only thing that he published, but it's probably what he's best known for. Probably the book for which he's second best known is his autobiography. And both of these books are really part of the Western canon, and they're on the Chicago Great Books list. Okay, so Franklin helped. So he did many other things, including establishing the first public lending library in America. He founded the University of Pennsylvania and helped organize America's first volunteer fire company. He conducted groundbreaking experiments with electricity, including his famous experiment with the kite, where he tied a key to the tail of the kite and sort of harnessed lightning, proving that lightning was indeed an electrical discharge. So unlike some other stories about the founding fathers, that one is historically accurate. He invented many practical devices, including the Franklin stove, bifocal glasses, and the lightning rod. And he believed that his inventions should broadly benefit society, so he never patented them. Or, well, at least most of them he refused to patent. He served as the colonial postmaster, and he greatly improved the postal system. And Benjamin Franklin was a key advocate for colonial unity and then for the cause of independence that led up to the eventual breaking with the mother country, Great Britain. So he helped draft the Declaration of Independence in 1776. He, in fact, was one of 5 people on the committee that drafted the Declaration of Independence. If we're to take the musical 1776 as being truthful, which the license was taken there. But John Adams tried to get Benjamin Franklin to write the Declaration of Independence because he knew that Franklin was probably the most respected, universally respected man in Congress. And Franklin declined, saying, I only write light extemporanea, as he put it. It makes for a good song and a show. Like I said, don't know that that's historically accurate. He served as the American ambassador to France and was instrumental in securing loans from the French as well as French military support. He was quite the rake in France. Women loved him. He was extraordinarily charming. And he was quite the philanderer as well. Let's see. And then he also helped negotiate the Treaty of Paris that ended the American Revolution and under which Great Britain recognized her former colonies as the United States of America. Franklin was the oldest delegate at the Constitutional Convention in 1887, and he died on April 17th, 1790, at 84 years of age. He's remembered as a printer, a philosopher, an inventor, a diplomat, and of course, a founding father. So that is the story of, in a nutshell, that's the story of Benjamin Franklin. I've read some short biographies from him. I have the biography of Benjamin Franklin that was written by Walter Isaacson. I have to confess I have not read it yet. So, so let's talk a little bit now about Poor Richard's Almanack. So, as I mentioned, it was first published in 1732 by Benjamin Franklin under the pseudonym Richard Saunders, who was a fictional poor Englishman. Okay? He created the Almanack to entertain, to inform, and to provide sort of practical advice for everyday living. And it became one of the most popular publications in the American colonies, and was published every year until 1758. So it had a nice 26-year run. The Almanack contained several parts, if you will. There were calendars and astronomical data, sunrise, sunset, those sort of things, moon phases, weather predictions, practical advice on farming and household keeping and business, and then there were humorous pieces and these aphorisms, the sayings, to impart wisdom and moral guidance. As you'll see when I read you some parts of it, so Benjamin Franklin's sayings, they're short, they're very pithy, to the point, and that really is, it shows you the first of all, his style, how he thought about these things. And I think he knew that if he wrote something that was short and pithy, people were more likely to remember it. So among the sayings that you still hear today that come from Poor Richard's Almanack are, a penny saved is a penny earned. Or a penny earned is a penny, penny saved is a penny earned, right? So I don't think that was exactly how Benjamin Franklin worded it. Over the years, or really the centuries, the wording has been altered. But it's amazing to think that almost 300 years later, and you'll see, I'll read some other ones and you'll recognize them. We still have these sayings. They've become part of the American cultural fabric. So, okay. So that kind of gives you its background. Okay, and let's see. So some of his best ones include early to bed and early to rise, make a man healthy, wealthy, and wise, right? You've probably heard that. And God helps them who helps themselves. That was also one of his sayings. So those are probably the three that I've mentioned are probably his best known. What I want to do, I went through my copy of Poor Richard's Almanack, and I picked out some ones that I thought were particularly apt, or they resonated with me for various reasons. So I'm going to read some of these to you to give you a real good flavor of Poor Richard's Almanack. So with the old almanac and the old year, leave thy old vices, though ever so dear. So the thing about an almanac, of course, is that at the end of the year, you essentially discard it and you buy a new one for the coming year, right? And so that's what we should do with our bad habits. The next one, fish and visitors stink after 3 days. Now, I don't know. I find that fish stinks in less than 3 days. Visitors, maybe sometime they can stay for 4, but that's pretty much it. So, okay. He that would live in peace and at ease must not speak all he knows, nor judge all he sees. Right? I think that that's very good advice. Just because we think it doesn't mean we need to say it. All right. Next. So this is a little bit longer. He had these, they weren't really sayings. They're more like ultra short stories, I guess. Okay. A lawyer being sick and extreme ill was moved by his friends to make his will, which soon he did, gave all the wealth he had to frantic persons, lunatic and mad, that they might see with, and to his friends this reason did reveal, that they might see with equity he deal. From madmen's hands I did my wealth receive, therefore that wealth to madmen's hands I leave. Now, I deal with lawyers quite often in my work, and I see very often what lawyers are asked to do by people other than me. And it is interesting how often I think people are carried away by greed, jealousy, to a crazy degree. And they demand that the lawyer get them justice. And so it really strikes me that this part about here, from madmen's hands I did my wealth receive, therefore that wealth to madmen's hands I leave. I think, you know, that's, I suspect that a lot of attorneys think that. Okay, here's another one. And by the way, this one you'll recognize in an altered form, I suspect. Tart words make no friends. A spoonful of honey will catch more flies than a gallon of vinegar. Right? It's been shortened over the years to you'll catch more flies with honey than vinegar. But this is the original text of that saying. This is another one I've unfortunately seen too often. Tricks and treachery are the practice of fools that have not wit enough to be honest. Ouch. That is a pretty tough judgment, but I think unfortunately it's oftentimes true. Those of you who are regular watchers of this show will understand why I'm reading this one. Eat to please thyself, but dress to please others. There you go. There is much difference between imitating a good man and counterfeiting him. You know, I think one of the great parts about these sayings is the lessons are often, they could be construed to be quite harsh, but because of the way Benjamin Franklin serves them up with humor, they go down more easily. Okay. Clean your finger before you point at my spots. So true, right? So true. He that has not got a wife is not yet a complete man. And again, if you're a regular watcher of the show, you know why I chose that one. I just have a few more here I want to share with you. Many would live by their wits, but break for want of stock. I have to say, I just love that. Again, it's so digging, and yet it does it in such a humorous way. Though modesty is a virtue, bashfulness is a vice. I think that's so beautiful, and I think there is a tendency to conflate the two. But to be modest in dress, in the way we speak, in the tone of our voice, in how we interact with other people, all of those are beautiful ways for us to conduct ourselves. The bashfulness, to be so self-effacing that we can't engage with other people, that is not a good thing. We're here to engage with other people. So this is expressing the same sentiment as one I read just a moment ago. A house without woman and firelight is like a body without soul or spirit. I'm sorry, without soul or sprite. Most of the times these rhyme. I'll read it again, just for form's sake. A house without woman and firelight is like a body without soul or sprite. Okay. And finally, all things are easy to industry, all things difficult to sloth. So true. If we're willing to apply ourselves, things become a lot easier. But if all we want to do is be lazy, everything is so hard. So, as we head toward the end of the year and spend time with family, friends, loved ones, colleagues, start making plans for the new year, I think it's good to reflect on the virtues that we hope to embrace, the vices we hope to leave behind, and just give some thought to that. Not a big fan of making New Year's resolutions, frankly, but on the other hand, I am a fan of introspection, of creating conditions of satisfaction, and being thoughtful about how to get a little better each day and cleave more closely to the ideal picture of ourselves, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. So I'll toast you to 2025. It seemed to have gone by so quickly. And thank you again for joining me at Jiggers' Place. I truly hope that you've enjoyed as much as I do. And I look forward to seeing you again in the new year. Marie, darling, you are my belle. Courage at all times, my friends.